What's going on, everyone? It's the Fantasy Football Almanac, back at it with another fantasy football video. Today we are going to be talking about buy low dynasty wide receivers, one of my favorite topics on the entire show. But before we get into it, if you guys could, go down and give this video a like. I'm answering every single comment. So you guys have any questions related to trades, dynasty, redraft questions, underdog fantasy, anything, please let me know down below and subscribe to the channel. It is the best way to support me. It's completely free and you could always change your mind later. With that, guys, let's hop right into it with our first buy low, and that is Jordan Addison. Now, I know technically Jordan Addison not in the league yet, not even drafted yet, but Jordan Addison, I think, is getting a little too much hate on his poor combine personally. At first, I did overreact to it a little bit as well, moving him down to my wide receiver 3, but now he's right back up to my wide receiver 2. I just keep finding myself thinking that Jordan Addison, for one, was a Biletnikoff Award winner, which is one of the most prestigious awards you can win in all of college football. He put up 1,600 yards in his age 19 season with Kenny Pickett over at Pitt, and yes, he does transfer to USC and have a little bit of a poorer season, but I hear a lot of stuff was going on behind the scenes at USC, so we don't know what the heck happened with Jordan Addison, but either way, we've seen the talent of a guy that could potentially be a number one wide receiver at the NFL level. Yes, his weight is poor, only weighing in at 171 pounds, but at the same time, very few 171-pound wide receivers are getting first-round draft capital, and that is exactly what Jordan Addison is getting this upcoming draft. I mean, this is somebody who right now is projected to be the third wide receiver off of the board behind only Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's a phenomenal player in his own right, and Zay Flowers. So I am absolutely fine going up and trying to get Jordan Addison because this is somebody who has the talent to be a great wide receiver at the NFL level. Not only that, the average NFL wide receiver is shrinking these days, going from prototypical alpha wide receiver ones, guys like Calvin Johnson, now to much smaller builds. Guys like Devonta Smith are becoming more and more prominent as the years go on, which I think bodes well for Jordan Addison in the future. Overall, I do like him, and if he is getting first-round draft capital, which he most likely should be this upcoming draft, I'm super excited for the draft, by the way. It's coming up in a mere 2 weeks. I'm recording this on the 13th. Should be coming out on the 13th, actually. But either way, we are 2 weeks away from the draft. Let me know where you think Jordan Addison will end up in the draft, because there's, so many different landing spots. I think somewhere later on in the first round, I see him early 20s. If Jordan Addison ends up on a team like the Chargers, I am super excited about that. A team like the Bengals as well. But we'll see where he goes. There's so many landing spots for him. I think it's really wide open for a lot of these wide receivers, aside from a guy like Jackson Smith-Njigba, who I pretty much have penciled in for the Texans. But either way, I think Jordan Addison is somebody who had an elite breakout age, an elite season, a Biletnikoff Award winner, somebody who will be going in the first round, and I don't think a poor combine should necessarily scare you away from taking him as the second wide receiver off of the board in Dynasty leagues. Moving on, the next wide receiver I got is Juju Smith-Schuster, and I think Juju Smith-Schuster is somebody I kind of overreacted to as a free agency loser. Because, well, yes, I still do think he is a free agency loser. I think the situation isn't as bad as I initially portrayed. This is somebody whose targets will most likely go up, going from an offense where Travis Kelce is the lead guy and a monster in his own right, to now facing target competition from guys like Kendrick Bourne, Devontae Parker. None of these guys are guys that get me too excited. They should not get you excited either. But more on Juju. This is somebody who easily should surpass 120, 130 targets this upcoming season. And while the efficiency will go down because this is somebody who caught 75% of passes from Patrick Mahomes, I think that does go down to somewhere between 65 and 70%. Either way, that should equate to almost 100 receptions for Juju Smith-Schuster this upcoming season. And if you are getting 100 receptions, I would be pretty surprised if Juju Smith-Schuster does not eclipse 1,000 yards this next season. Not only that, in this Chiefs offense, he was only able to get 3 touchdowns. He was not the main touchdown guy in this offense. That role went to Isaiah Pacheco. That role went to Travis Kelce. Now, even though the total amount of touchdowns in this Patriots offense will be fewer, I think there will be some positive regression for Juju Smith-Schuster to get more touchdowns this upcoming season. Well, I am not expecting 12 touchdowns for Juju Smith-Schuster. That's for sure. I think 6 touchdowns is well within the range of outcomes. Not only that, we have seen Juju's ceiling in the past. That 2018 Steelers team with Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown, where Juju had 1,400 yards. I don't think he has that ceiling in him yet again, but at the same time, we have seen it from him before. He's not an age cliff, only 26 years old, which means you probably will have him in Dynasty for another 3 years if you go out and trade for him. And the fact that Juju is the wide receiver 50 right now on Keep Trade Cut, listed behind guys like Sky Moore, Gabe Davis, Josh Downs, Tyler Lockett, who's a full 4 years older than him, Cortland Sutton, who had an awful last season and is a full year older than him. I would rather Juju Smith-Schuster over all of these guys. I do not get why he has fallen so much. Personally, I think Juju's a supreme buy low right now. Somebody who, well, yes, did get a knock in free agency. I think the market in general is overreacting, as I did initially, but now I'm realizing that what the heck are we doing? He is way too low for how talented of a guy he is, and the potential for him to be a good wide receiver 2 in your offense is absolutely still there. Not too worried about Juju. Definitely should not be the wide receiver 50 in my opinion. Anyways, let's move on to our next guy, another rookie, and that is Kayshon Boutte. And I know Kayshon Boutte did have a pretty poor combine, actually a really bad combine, grading it at 4.88, which is below average wide receiver athleticism at the position. But this is somebody who was very highly recruited, an LSU wide receiver who was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, and LSU in the past has produced some phenomenal wide receivers. We're talking about OBJ, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. The list goes on. I mean, all of these guys are great wide receivers. All of them go to LSU. Kayshon Boutte, following in their footsteps, has an elite freshman season at LSU, averaging 70 yards a game as a freshman, which is great. Does take steps back the next 2 years, and there are some off-the-field issues, some character concerns with Kayshon Boutte. But at this point, with Kayshon Boutte going around in the mid-second round at this current moment, I think that's a little too low for a guy with the potential that Kayshon Boutte has. I mean, look at the guys going towards the back end of the first round, early second round in these dynasty drafts. I mean, we have guys like Josh Downs, Marvin Mims, who I actually really like as well. I do want to make a video about him later. But Rashee Rice as well. I mean, all of these guys I don't think project to have the potential ceiling of a guy like Kayshon Boutte. And while you may be getting decent production from these players, I mean, how many of Rashee Rice, Josh Downs, and Marvin Mims are ever going to be a wide receiver 2 at the NFL level? I think one of them probably will be, but the hit rate on these wide receivers late in the first, early second is low. So at the same time, I feel like swinging for the fences on Kayshon Boutte in the early second round, late first round, makes a lot more sense to me than I think a lot of people are giving him credit for right now. Again, yes, he had a poor combine, but combine doesn't generally have as large of an effect on wide receivers as I think a lot of people think it does. For running backs, it absolutely matters. For wide receivers, not as much. That's why I think Kayshon Boutte is being pretty slept on right now. Well, yes, there are a ton of question marks, and there is no doubt in my mind that he'd easily be a bust at the NFL level. The potential for him in the back end of the first round is too much for me to pass up on. The last guy I want to talk about on this list is Rondale Moore, and I think Rondale Moore is a pretty interesting buy low at this current moment. I mean, this is somebody coming off the board as the wide receiver 57 in startup drafts in Dynasty, going behind 30-year-old Brandon Cooks. I mean, he's 29 right now, but will be 30 at the start of the NFL season. Going behind Tyler Lockett, going behind Sky Moore, going behind Gabe Davis, and again, I would rather have Rondale Moore than all these guys in the long term because I think Rondale Moore's potential is simply higher. I mean, we see Rondale Moore come off the board as a second-round pick and be more productive than Sky Moore ever has in his first NFL season. We also see him have more production in his second NFL season, averaging 52 yards per game in his second season. Yes, he only played 8 games, but 414 yards in 8 games, extrapolated out to a full season, is around 850 yards, which is actually great production for a 22-year-old wide receiver at the NFL level. Well, I don't see the ceiling being there because considering he is only 5'7", 180 pounds. I think he does provide a great slot wide receiver type of floor where he could legitimately have 100, 110 targets in a season and somewhere in the ballpark of 70 to 80 receptions because his catch percentage is going to be so high. I mean, in his rookie season, he caught 85% of balls thrown to him, and in his sophomore season, 73%. Those are numbers that not very many wide receivers get. Some running backs do, like Alvin Kamara, but at the same time, I think Rondale Moore is a good buy low considering just how cheap he is. Well, I think the odds he hit are high, that's for sure. And the Kyler situation still is pretty murky. Now is the best time to buy him low because you're buying him simply so low. I don't think you'd have to pay a second-round pick for Rondale Moore, honestly, at this point. And this is somebody who did go in the second round of the NFL draft. So I do like Rondale Moore here. While not the easiest to swallow of buy lows, I think he is fine. And that's why I do have him as my last buy low here. Anyways, guys, hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, go ahead and give this video a like. Again, answering every single comment. If you guys have any questions related to fantasy football, please let me know down below and subscribe to the channel. Totally free, and it is the best way to help me out. You can always change your mind later. Love you guys all so much. And as always, have a good day, a good night, and a good life.